Hello, everybody. Hope you're all having a good night. This is John Lancelot, and I'm here to fill in for Steve Grumbine. He called out today, and I hope he feels better. We're supposed to actually have a show tonight, and I was looking forward to him because I love speaking with Steve. He has some of the best perspectives. I like his style, and so I hope he gets better so he can come back on the air. But I'm glad to be here with everyone else. And basically, this is the last minute. Hello, good evening, everybody. This is the last minute show, but I'm glad to be here with you tonight. I've been doing nothing. There's so many things I've been doing. Things happen in life. You have to take care of your family. You have to keep on, doing a lot of studying and writing, and just, moving forward, helping the movement out. Fighting the good fight, and that's what we do every day. We try to survive, and especially in today's world with the way the country is now, we have to fight harder. But I just want to let everyone else out there who is working and to make things better, in activism and hi, yeah, I'm here, I made it. And anyone who's out there fighting the good fight, just make sure you pace yourself. Make sure you don't burn yourself out. It's not easy when you hear about the Congress being very ineffective and trying to pass bills that's detrimental to not only the American people, but to the human race and also to the environment and the planet, basically. Hey, Joe. What's going on? Yeah, the party is here now. Joe's here. Now the party has started. We're gonna get this going. Molly and Tino. Yes, we're all here together tonight. I'm glad to be here. Jesse, glad that you're here. Glad everyone is here. Yes. And so we're talking about ourselves. We're talking about the human race. We're gonna be very basic. Allison, Dina, everyone, hello. This is fun. This is really fun. Hello, everybody. Ahmed, Mark. Yes, the sense of urgency, Mark. The sense of urgency drives us, but also knowing what the other side is going to look like if we do not do anything at all. Think about it. I mean, look, this is December. This is the time of the holidays. This is the time for people to, look forward to being with their families. Those who can, those who are not worked to death, can see their families. We know that it's a very hard time for a lot of people because they might not have the money to, maybe buy gifts or whatnot, or be able to feed themselves, be able to get the health care that they need. And I'm talking about people who are talented. I'm talking about people who have been very successful at certain points at their life, and then now they're hitting on hard times. We can't forget people who are having a hard time. That's why we're here. We're not here to aggrandize ourselves. We're here to help other people. And sometimes we do it and we don't take care of ourselves. But we have to make sure that we're making sure that we're taking care of each other by saying, hey, don't burn out. I know that you might want to take a hiatus and come right back. I know you're going to come right back. Don't be afraid to rest. Don't be afraid, because there's going to be plenty of work for all of us. Currently, our country is in a lot of trouble. Congress is trying to pass a tax bill that is detrimental internationally, detrimental to us here in the United States. And that's because both parties, I'm talking about both parties. I'm not just talking about the Republican Party. Sometimes the establishment just tries to get us to talk about the Republicans and how bad they are and how Trump is a disaster, I would say. I mean, I would help the guy run the country if he wanted to, but he's not going to take the help because he's an egomaniac. All right. And I think he knows that. So I'm not even really insulting him, but we have to speak real. Progressives have to be real. Progressives cannot. Okay, let me just say one thing about this, because I just feel like this has to be emphasized, that Democrats, right, establishment Democrats, people who run as Democrats, are very good at tiptoeing around things. Oh, we have to sort of, speak a certain way. We have to cater to people that might not agree with us. So we have to not be ourselves. We could speak progressively, but then our bills are more, on the austerity side. We don't want to talk about real economics. We don't want to talk about New Deal economics. We don't want to talk about modern monetary theory because it's just too cool for me to even talk about. So I'm not going to talk about it. That sort of thing. And they don't want to push forward. They talk about political revolutions, but then they say, oh, well, you know what? Maybe I don't want to be a revolutionary. Maybe I just want to fall back and go back to the master. The Democrats are very good at tiptoeing around things. The Republicans, they'll steamroll right over you. They'll tell you exactly what they're going to do to you. And people eat it up and follow it. So what are you afraid of? What are the Democrats afraid of? Progressives should not adopt that attitude. Just unleash yourselves. Unleash and say, look, I'm talking real talk. All right? We're going to talk economics. We're going to understand that President Herbert Hoover, was pushing the same trickle-down economics, right, before the Great Depression, before FDR had to come in and push the New Deal. Think about that. This has been going on, right, when Reagan came out with his voodoo economics, which George W.H. Bush, Father Bush, coined that term, but that was from Herbert Hoover, right? When you speak about these things, this is what the Democrats should have been talking about for years, but they love to tiptoe. They love to tiptoe. They love to walk around things. They like to talk about how bad Trump is, even though they're a part. They created that monster too. The DNC created that monster. It's like creating a monster and saying, "Oh, that big bad monster. Yeah, well, come back to us, even though we created him." We all know 2016 was a disaster, right? And so we have to sort of get to the truth of the matter, that this tax bill is a disaster for the economy. And let's understand what it means when they're cutting taxes on the rich, right? They want to give them, the government is still spending money. The government is a monopolizer of the money. So when they say that we're going to cut taxes for the rich, the 1%, the corporations, because they're the job creators, they still have to appropriate the credit. They still have to go through the appropriations committee and the authorization committee and pass it to the other chamber and all the rigmarole of Congress to get it fulfilled. They're not just minusing anything. It's a balanced equation. You have a minus on one side, you have a plus on the other. So it's shifting. You're still spending money. I don't know why people say, oh, well, you got to cut taxes. I want you to cut my taxes. Well, really, you're not cutting shit. You're getting screwed. And all these deficit hawks, thinking that they know everything on both the Democrats and Republicans, well, look, we know the Republicans are sketchy. We know that they're sketchy. Let's just not, we don't even need to talk about that. Republicans are sketchy. We'll just get off of it. When you hear another progressive talk about how bad Trump is, how bad the GOP is, they say, thank you, Captain Obvious. We know that. The Democrats we're concentrating on now. The Democrats don't understand economics. Let's just understand they don't understand economics. They don't understand political economy. They don't know how it works. They just don't. Austerity are for politicians who are scared to speak up for themselves, so they listen to the financial sector because the financial sector knows exactly what they're doing. And you cannot blame the financial sector because corporations are designed to function for the bottom line. They're designed that way. So politicians should know that. You would think they know that. You would think they understand. You would think our public servants, they call them public servants, more like public screwers. All they're there for is for power. Yeah, they're there. Now look what happened this last election. Everybody was cheering for these politicians. They would never say that your federal taxes zero out when you give it to the government, because the government could just make, give more credit. It's about credit. It's about fiscal and it's about monetary policy. It's not rocket science. We need to stop pretending that we don't want to understand economics, because economics is a very important. I think that any progressive movement worth its weight in the fiat currency should understand that economics is the centerpiece. That is what the American voter is looking for. They're looking for an understanding on economics. How are you going to make their community, their town, their city, their state move ahead? Sitting around talking about how bad Trump is, sitting around talking about how horrible the Republicans have been, is not gonna do jack. It's sort of like mental. It's like you're going in a circle. Forget about that. Once we figure out our side of the equation, the Republicans are gonna get washed out. What we need to concentrate on, the Democrats and their lack of understanding economics and the lack of knowledge of anything. They could barely even come up with their own foreign policy. It seems like whenever we get a Democratic president, they want to mirror what the Republicans have done. They can't seem to figure out how to enhance our American foreign policy. They can't seem to figure out how to take the pressure off of the Pentagon and our military. They can't seem to figure out. They want to do the same thing, but in a more lighthearted way. Well, we're liberals. We love everybody. Yeah, Steve. Steve, they're the same. And I'll tell you why. Because they need each other to keep each other in power, and it's a very strong unit. That's why Dementors are so scared, because their senses are the same as our senses. We know that the Democrats and the Republicans, they are a very formidable opponent. But there's nothing in the Constitution that says that they are going to be there forever. It's just that they have the means to stay there. So they fight the antithesis every day. They fight the antithesis. They don't want us any synthesis, but they fight it every day. And so Dementors, right? And I'm saying that, look, that's a strategy that some progressives will take on. Go ahead. But that is only a part of the equation. The real part of the equation is overcoming the duopoly, overcoming it. And the only way you overcome it is through economics. You have to be able to speak to the American people about economics. They're going to ask you, oh, well, how are we going to afford these programs? Well, the way we afford these programs is Congress has to do their job. They have to, they monopolize our currency. Currency doesn't come from banks. Currency doesn't come from corporations. It's a government instrument to make sure that we have an economy. So when they say the government's going to go broke, our government's not going to go broke. We're not under the Bretton Woods system. We created the Bretton Woods system. We're not under it. So we're not under the Washington consensus structure. We're not under that. We're not beholden to the IMF or the World Bank. The Congress, supposed to be the People's Congress, has the power of the purse still. I guess wait for the day. Right, Joe? How are you going to pay for it? You're going to pay for it by getting the right people in Congress because they have the power of the purse. The monetary theory is something that is consistently used by Congress, but is used not for the United States, not for us. It's used for these missions that we do abroad. Missions that we just, I'm not saying anything. We need a defense, right? Every country, that's the Westphalian state system, international system requires that we have a defense. But that's never discussed with the American people. And frankly, I don't think it's discussed with the members of the armed services. It's just these wars are continuous. And I think we found ourselves in the fix where we're looping in different parts of the world. Now we have failed states. We have a failed state in Libya. We have slave trade in Libya because we destabilized that region. During the Obama administration, Obama has admitted that he made a mistake there. Honestly, I think Obama has made plenty of mistakes, but that's another show. So everybody's praising Obama like whatever. That is a huge mistake. Syria is a failed state. Iraq has been a failed state. There's a lot of failed states out there. Now we're trying to make, I would say North Korea is a failed state with nuclear weapons. They're in a bad situation. We have to be sensitive to that, but also make sure that we're protecting our allies in the region and also cooperating with China and Japan and South Korea to make sure that we mitigate any sort of human disaster. And I wrote a paper that I've shared with quite a few people, and I'm going to share with even more people on the remedy, what we can employ in that region to make sure that we quarantine North Korea and make them come back to the table. But we can't just make people do things, right? They're defiant. They're defiant. They're shooting missiles over Japan. They're beating their chests. And now we have a president that's doing the same thing. The same thing. So what do we do as a people when our president cannot negotiate, is not as tact as Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis? You know, all the administration has to do, it seems both parties will not look back into history. I'm sick and tired of this. It's like people saying, oh, well, you know what, Dementor just started last week. Dementor started 6 months ago. Now we're winning elections. What do you know? Do you know how long Dementor has been going on? Since 2004 or earlier. I mean, come on. So we have a lot of activists or politicos or public servants, presidents, senators are not looking to history for guidance. In 2016, and people have told me, okay, well, if Bernie would have gotten, the vice presidency, it would have been uncomfortable. Really? You're not uncomfortable now? Come on. You're not uncomfortable? Just a little bit. It's uncomfortable now. But if the Democrat DNC would have looked into its own party history, in 1960, and I bring this up all the time because it's so, I don't know how can you argue against this, but Kennedy and Johnson had a very contested primary. They did not like each other, but they had to band together to win. So they could have brought Bernie on, learned from history, say, you know what? He has a lot of energy. There's a lot of millennials, a lot of pissed off people because we cheated. Now that we got the position from all the cheating, let's do something right now. Let's set things right. Let's bring Bernie on as a vice president to Clinton, to Hillary Clinton, and let's take on Trump. That way, when Bernie, who was out there, he's basically the vice presidential candidate, because he's out there saying, Trump's bad, Trump's bad, Trump's bad. I know I didn't get in, but Trump's bad. Get him. Sick him. No, they chose Tim Kaine, who's an empty suit. And we lost. We lost to Trump. I mean, Trump is not that hard of a person to beat in an election. Really, he's not. He's not. I'm tired of these people saying, oh, the Russians and all this stuff. If the Russians had any involvement, it was very minimal. We've already screwed up our voting laws. We've already been suppressing voting laws. People had to fight in the 60s, even before. We had women's suffrage, and even further back. We had African Americans couldn't vote, minorities couldn't vote. So we've been, and now they're currently, United States, they're currently trying to cut back voting now, the Republicans. So how on God's green earth they're gonna blame the Russians for our elections? We've been effing our elections for a long time. Come on, man. Come on, people. Come on. We've been messing with our own election. Americans have been screwing our elections. Forget about the Russians. What we should do as a solution, as progressives, see, we have to be very policy-oriented as progressive. Economics is the center of it. I don't care what anyone says. Economics, if you cannot discuss and agree on economics or come up with an economic plan within your organization that could bring the American people to you, then you're not going to have a platform. You're not going to win elections. You're not. Because that's what the American people want to hear. They don't want to hear about, well, the Republicans and their tax bill. We know the Republicans are trying to screw us. And if they do it, we're going to have to build up more because they're just going to screw us more, right? Until we figure out what to do. But don't depend on the Democrats to be able to do that job. Don't depend on the Democrats. If you are a proponent of modern monetary theory, right? Post-Keynesian economics. We have scholars that study it every day. There's books written on it. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's used every day. It's an analysis. It's actually the best solution for the United States right now. UBI, I don't agree with because I think it's not a lot of scholarship and I don't think there's a lot of theory in there. I mean, yeah, I see it works in some places. The United States is a huge country and Americans are very, very, I don't know. I'm not a proponent of it. I'll listen to it. UBI, I just don't see it. So I'm not personally going to push UBI. I feel that the progressive movement has to become a bit more policy oriented, come up with solutions. The solution to the voting issue, then we should be coming up with solutions. Well, you know what? The voting machines are terrible. They could be easily hacked, obviously, if they believe the Russians did anything. So why isn't the government working to improve voting machines? Why aren't state governments moving towards that? Because the people in power want to make sure that they're screwed and then they win, however they're winning. But we have to speak to how we can get more Americans to vote. We need to get more Americans to vote. We need to get more people to the polls. Maybe we have to have mandatory voting. That is, it's a responsibility. That's like a responsibility to pay your taxes. It should be a responsibility to go to the polls. Do they want that? Do they want these solutions? No, of course they don't. Come on. Sometimes it's tiring. It's tiring, man. It's tiring. I know when Steve Grumbine is saying that he's tiring. Hell yeah, it's tiring. Because obviously no one's talking about the right thing. No one wants to come up with the right thing. Everybody wants to be a star. There's no celebrities in politics, people. There's no celebrities. You want to be a celebrity? Learn how to play a musical instrument and learn how to act, make movies. Do something crazy online, do something like, I don't know, bungee cord or something. Say something stupid and get viral. That's the way you become a celebrity. You're not, and I want to tell all the people who are running for office, I don't care who you are. I know most of the people are running for office and they're all great people, but I just want to say, if you're running for office, don't do it because you want to be famous, because this is not that type of business. This is not that type of business. This is hard business, man. If you want to be a celebrity, you're in the wrong business. Don't expect to be worshipped. And I don't like when people start worshiping politicians. These are regular, everyday people. I've met politicians. I've met senators. I've met advisors in Washington, D.C. I've met celebrities. I've met musicians. When I meet them, they're just everyday people, man. They're just making a living. Being famous is not even all that it's cracked up to be. You can't even walk into a grocery store without being seen. You can't walk down the street without being seen. You can't take your dog out for a walk without being seen. You have to hide in a bunker. So that's what being famous is all about. It's not like, oh, everybody loves me. No, when you're in politics, not everybody's going to love you. Some people are not going to like you. And that's fine. If you don't like me, great. I've dealt with that. Even as a musician, not everybody liked me. I've dealt with this for years. But but the thing is that most of the time, a majority of the people will love you. But it's just that small group that will be up your you-know-what when you say something wrong. I can care less. I can care less. I'm not running for office. I'm just saying that you have to be policy-oriented. And you have to study policy. You can't just get up on a mic and say, like, oh, I want universal health care. That's great. We all do. How are you going to get it done? What's the economics you're going to use to get it done? If you can't lay out those mechanics, you're not getting jack crap done. Oh, you want tuition-free education? Great. I want that too. I think a majority of us want that. How are you going to get it done? How are you going to pay for it? Right? How are you going to pay for it? It's not because the money isn't there. The money is there because you just bring it into being. When you're a legislature, when you're in Congress, mainly Congress, because remember, states cannot credit. They don't formulate currency. They don't do fiscal policy. So they're dependent on the Congress to do their job. And that's why, Congress and has been screwing all 50 states, in my opinion. They only get the pork barrel spending, the representatives, what they want for the roads of nowhere or their little pet projects in their states and, their bases and whatnot, which you do need military bases, but, regular people need things too. We need healthcare system. We need roads. We need a new economy. We need a green economy. We need a new deal. They will spend money on things that don't even on a $100 roll of paper, toilet paper. They'll just jack up the price. Oh, you're the government. You're spending money. All right, $200 for a roll of paper, or toilet paper, and they'll pay it because the government has the money to do it. The government has the money. But they don't have the money to make sure that children get fed when their parents cannot make ends meet and they need to be nourished. With the U.S. AID, when we go up to developed and undeveloped countries on the periphery, we make sure that that when the famines are happening, that the children are the first to get fed because they're malnourished. In foreign countries where the government is a failed state, like in Libya, there's a lot of children there. We have to remember that where all these disasters and wars are happening, children are present. I think people just forget about that. But children are present. In the United States, we have children that need shoes, that need clothes. Their parents are down and out. Their parents their parents are in a bad situation. We have a system that allows not only adults to sink to the bottom, but children as well. What does that tell you about our system? That people won't even entertain it. I will pay a little bit of my paycheck to make sure that we have universal healthcare. No one is imposing anything on you when that's happening. What's imposing is that when you get a debilitating disease and you cannot pay for your healthcare and you're left to die because you can't afford it, then what do you do as a human being? And that's why universal healthcare is something that we need in this country. But how are we going to do it? We have to understand economics. We have to learn about MMT. We have to learn about post-Keynesian economics. We have to go back to history and learn what Herbert Hoover tried to do and what the result was and how FDR had to fix that. But the damage was done. Herbert Hoover and his great idea of cutting back and having the government not help individuals and individual Americans and just basically had the government be a corporate manager took us into depression, but not only in the United States, but also abroad. And it paved the way for Hitler to come up in the cause of World War II. Because you have to remember Germany's history. After World War I, they were under heavy sanctions. And no one believed, when they saw Hitler for the first time, they said, oh, yeah, that his mustache, he looked like Charlie Chaplin. He can't take him seriously. Dude was building up. Behind the scenes. And people didn't believe, Europeans, Americans definitely didn't believe that Germany was going to be able to do anything. The only recourse Germany had was to start a war, another one. The Depression had extreme damage, not only to the economy of the United States and the rest of the world, but to humanity, because after World War II, there was a lot of carnage. So that's what we have to think about when we're talking about politics. We're not just talking about it for ourselves. We're talking about it for the rest of humanity and for wildlife around the world and our environment. So how do we do it, right? Because we're about solutions. How do we do it is that if you understand, economics, you understand how modern monetary theory is supposed to work when you're implementing it in policies, which Joe Firestone talks about all the time. And he's a great resource. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot for all of us to learn, but there's basics involved that you don't have to learn the whole thing. All you have to know is that Congress is never going to go broke because it's a monopolizer of the currency. It's not under any bank. The Federal Reserve does not sit over the Congress. Federal Reserve basically implements the monetary policy that is triggered by the fiscal policy that goes in within Congress. Once the president figures out what he wants to do and sign off on it, then it goes into implementations. Then the banks basically have to follow these rules. You raise the interest rates, you lower them. Those are adjustments that are made as time goes on, and then you just keystrokes that bring the currency into movement, and then the dollar is taxed, so it keeps it moving. The tax moves the dollar. It makes it worth something, spendable. It's backed up. So when the Republicans are talking about their tax plan, it worries me because it makes you wonder what's going to happen to our currency. It's a floating currency. There's nothing attached to it. There's no gold standard. That was done away with in 1971. So progressives need to learn economics very intently because that's what the American people is going to be asking you about. When you go out and you try to get your candidates to win, you can't just say, oh, Trump is bad, because they know that already. You're going to counter very few people that are going to think Trump is very few who are going to think Trump is great. Because they might not feel it then, or they're lying, but they might not be feeling it then, but they'll feel it later on. You have to ask these people the question: what's going on in your community? What needs to be done? Are your roads being paved? How's your health care? They might say, oh, I'm great. I'm working for a Fortune 500. I'm getting paid. Well, you know whose side they're on because they're comfortable. But a majority of the American people are not. And actually, a majority of the world are not comfortable. And we have to be able to take this on, head on. And just sitting around, following the DNC, dem entering, because we feel, I can tell you right now how dem enter is happening, how they believe it's going to happen. Because people are so disgusted with the Republican Party that they're going to run to the Democrats. That is basically the strategy. People are going to be so disgusted, which I don't think is a strategy. I think it's a lazy strategy. But people are going to be so disgusted, so uncomfortable that they're going to run to the Democrats. You know what? No. A disaster effect is going to happen. People are going to be so disgusted with the Republican Party, and they're already disgusted with the Democratic Party, that they're just going to stay home. So really, if we're here talking about economics, and I don't pretend to know everything there's to know about it, but I know that political economy is a very specific thing that people do look for. That's something that you could talk to an average person about. But elections are also just as important. Because if we do not speak about elections and we just get caught up in one thing, then we're not going to be able to win anything at all. Because, first of all, you talk about economics, you let the people know that the Congress is not doing their job. We're dealing with austerity. The tub is very low. You cannot swim in a pool that only has 1 foot of water. You're not going to be able to swim in it. We need, to get the engines of the economy rolling. And the way we do that is that we bring people to power. We get public servants. We vote people in that understand what they have to do when they get in. They're going to get rid of the debt ceiling. Right? Do you know that the UK in the parliament, they do not have a debt ceiling? I was speaking to a banker actually in London, and I told him about our legislature, and we're talking very detailed about, the parliament and the Congress of the United States. And I find it very curious that they don't have a debt ceiling. So what are they afraid of here in Washington, D.C.? What are they afraid of? What are they afraid of? What this stupid debt limit bullshit that they keep pushing on us, and they want to make us feel that we're in a good spot? They don't trust themselves. It's like you can't have an open bottle of alcohol because you're going to drink the whole damn thing. So you might as well not drink at all, even though a little bit of alcohol is a little good. You can drink and we have a little party. But you're not going to sit there and drink the whole freaking bottle. So they don't have a debt limit because they know how to measure. They know math. They know their limits. This stupid debt limit bullshit, deficit hawkish. Oh, like this deficit that we have to take care of. We got to take care of that first. When your children and your family members are dying in the streets, you're worried about some debt limit that the government is designed to handle. So what we're dealing with is corruption. We're dealing with people who don't mind seeing other people suffer. But it takes, really, I honestly think that our school system failed us. Those of us who did the extra work to find out that what they're teaching in school was hogwash. We had to do the extra work. But those people who just sail through, maybe we have a few valedictorians out there. I tell you, find a valedictorian and ask them that they know economics. Find an A student. Ask them to understand how the Congress works, how the economy works, why we're in austerity. Ask them about the deficit if they're concerned about a deficit, if they're concerned about the government going broke. I'm talking about A students. I'm talking about the Rhodes scholars. I'm talking about them. I'm talking about the Harvard grads. I'm talking about the Yale grads. I'm talking about the Ivy Leaguers. Ask them. I bet they're going to tell you, oh, yeah, I'm concerned about the deficit. Yeah, we got to figure that out. Give back your degree or close down Harvard. Close it down. He's not doing his job. Close it down. It's been there since 1637? Yale's been there, since 1701? Maybe Yale, Harvard is a little younger. Close them down. Lock them down. Lock them up. Those schools are ineffective because they're graduating people without understanding economics. Yeah, ask them they know how the Fed works. I'm not saying that the economic students won't tell you, oh yeah, I know how it works, but we know this already. We didn't expect the plebes to know this. Then that would be insidious. That's shady. That's real shady. But I bet you'll come up on all sorts of arguments and be shocked. Ask them. If you go to school now, go to the best student in the class. Go to the professor and say, what do you think of the government deficit? Is it scary? They're going to tell you things that are going to shock you. That's how bad it is. So that's what you do. You go out there, you challenge people. You know what? This is what I find. Oh, 1636. Yes, 1636. Harvard's been there since 1636. And not once had they produced anyone other than maybe FDR. I think he went to Harvard. That understood how to get the country economically out of how to get the people going, how to get us going, how to keep us in the number one spot. Right now, we're not in the number one spot. Also, when as progressives, we're splitting from pillar to post, and we have all these little factions growing. And listen, you gotta figure this out. You have to figure this out. There's no way that the Democrats are going to save this country the current form and way it is right now. There's no way. And there's no way that they're going to change without you saying, you know what? You've been doing this for years. Your organization is the one that has been keeping us in this state. Look at the Republicans. They hug their base. They crest their base. Like, yes, I know, conservatives, we love you. Help us take over the world. All right. And that's not, a little, maybe that's a little too possessive, maybe their relationship is a little sketchy. But what the Democrats do to us, man, what they've done to us, where you say, you know what? Do you remember when Obama won? What did Obama do when he won? Can you remember that? I want to see on the post if anyone can remember the progressives that pushed for Obama when he got in. What did he do? I'm gonna wait. What was one of the first things Obama did after he won? Did he congratulate us? Did he say, progressives, you guys are awesome. You got me into the presidency, and I'm going to do whatever I can to bring forth a progressive agenda. What did Obama do? Don't forget it. Just never forget. Forgive what we say in Judaism. Forgive, but don't forget. What did he do? He said, oh, well, you progressives, you guys better sit down, because that's what he did. He wagged his finger. Oh, you guys better just behave yourselves. We're trying to get along with the Republicans. While the Republicans were calling him all sorts of racist names, saying he wasn't born here, saying like, oh, Obama, he was schooled in madrasas, which is nothing wrong with but he wasn't. It wasn't him. He was. Obama was himself. They were projecting things onto him, and while he's telling progressives, well, I know you guys got me in office, but you guys better behave. You guys better behave. I'm the president now. I'm the president. I'm sorry, but like that's just the way it is. I don't understand why people want to be so nice after we've been screwed so many times. Yeah, run back. Come on. Let's just go back. Let's go Dementor, guys. Let's go. Let's go Dementor. Let's go be cheerleaders. Right? I always say, just in my mind, I always say, look, we cannot stand around and just watch other people do what they're doing, because they're, if you're not doing it yourself, the job is not going to get done right. I don't care how small the things that you do. Everything that you do is a step forward. You don't have to run for office. Running for office is just one piece of the pie. Right now, we don't really have a real way of challenging the Democrats, Republicans at the polls, because it seems like there's a lot of there's a lot of trouble. Like we have. Look, the Green Party, I have a lot of friends who are Greens. They're great. But I think the Greens are being a little headstrong. I think they're not looking at their own history. I think they're going to have to just do, they're not getting a lot of percentage of the vote. I think that if somebody really wanted to, they can get ballot access in all 50 states. I think that if the right wing wanted to do it, they could come up and make their own new party and win more elections and just push us out completely. There's a lot of factors we have to look at. The progressives cannot just think about, oh, we're the only ones. We don't have to just align with other progressives. Obviously, that's not happening. But the progressive faction that is able to reach out to conservatives and independents that are sort of sitting it out, or they don't really know too much, and you're able to talk about economics and how you're going to get our country, because we can't talk about people like they're aliens, man. We're all American brothers and sisters here, except we don't get along. Does anybody in their family, they might have a brother and sister or a family member they don't get along with, But you deal with them. It's your family, right? Well, that's the way we got to start thinking about our country. Okay, that's the way we got to start thinking about each other. And progressives cannot just think about, I want to win all progressive. That's never going to happen. Just like you're never going to win the whole electorate. But that's not you don't win elections by winning everybody over. I see Tim Canova. Yeah, I'd like to see him talk about economics. I'd like to see him, because he's been out for a while. I'd like to see him come on RP and talk specifically about MMT and talk about post-Keynesian economics. I'd like to see him speak and how he's going to win in the state of Florida, because that's the state I was born in. So I know a lot about Florida. I'd like to see him come on and speak on how he understands economics and deficits and what the Congress does and how the Congress is a monopolizer of the currency. Any progressive candidates, because I know he's one of the top ones right now, right? I want to see somebody I want to see how far our proposed elected officials are willing to go to get the word out to the American people and not just worry about, well, am I going to get elected if I say this? Am I going to get elected if I say that? You might, yeah, he has. He has? All right, cool. I'd like to see more of it. I'd like to see more. I don't think enough people know about it. Economics is the number one. Because that's what puts money in people's pockets. That's that wallet. You can't do jack without it, right? That credit card. Economics matters. There's nothing else. That's the number one in politics. Politics and economics are very close. I honestly wouldn't vote for anyone right now. I don't see anyone that's really saying, you know what, let's continue this political revolution. Let's continue this political revolution by talking about economics. I mean, yeah, I'm challenging people. I'm challenging candidates. I'm not running for anything. I don't have to be careful. I got to worry about what did I say here? What did I say there? I'm not voting for anyone like that again. Progressive candidates don't need to worry about that shit. All what you need to worry about is continuing this political revolution. If you're running for office, okay, and there's a lot of people I respect, including Tim and everybody, and he said, Tim said he's with MMT. Great, his aide said it. Bring his aide on. This is bring. We need the candidates to start talking about it. Excuse me, folks. We need politicians, people who are trying to run for office, to talk about it. That's the problem. You're not winning anything. The establishment is to come and run us over. I always wonder why Bernie doesn't talk about it more. Why Bernie doesn't lay into it and say, you know what? This is the deal. This is what the Congress does. Well, yeah, Tim should have a spot if he's willing to talk about economics. He could really lay out his plan then. He could really lay out his plan. This is because we have Ro Khanna, right? He's the one that's in Congress right now. And he's a Silicon Valley representative. You get the disparity in Silicon Valley with the very poor who are struggling, lost their job, and they can't live in the area, and there's no one talking about them. I don't even know if he even talks about them. What about the poor? Until I hear of somebody who's ready for office who's willing to come on and say, you know what? I think MMT, I think the post-Keynesian economics, if we really push that we're going to be able to take care of our economy, we're going to be able to bring up the American people And this is what I'm running on because I believe in it. This is what I'm going to do. No one is going to buy me off. This is exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm going to go door to door and knock on every door and say, you know what? Let's work together to get this done. That's the way you run for office. Not, well, you know, maybe we should run with the Democrats because they're the only ones that could really. Yeah, I know, Joe. They won't talk openly about it, but that's my problem with them. They're not open. I will come on here every week, and cajole these people and say, you could dance around all you want. I don't care. You're going to talk about economics, and you're going to let us know what you know about it. I will come on here every week and bring these people to task because I'm a citizen of this country. I'm not running for anything, but I see all these people running for office who expect us to just like, oh, yeah, you're cool. I'm going to vote for you anyway because you're progressive. No, I want to know that when you get in office, that you're going to do what the country needs you to do. Because I'm sick and tired of people say, well, you know, this guy, you know, and Joe, you brought up a very good point. Very good point. We need to start talking publicly about this. You're not going to get a vote by being a wimp. That's right, Lori. Wimp. Stop being wimps. A political revolution is not for the soft. Okay? A lot of us out here have been working our tails off for years. But, you know, if you're going to run for office, you're going to be in office. If you're going to be be in office and not bring up the plight of the poor in this country, and all you're going to talk about is tax cuts for the rich and this and that, the poor, even the middle class is poor, you're going to support them? You're going to support a party that's going to be tiptoeing around these very important issues because they want to get in office? They get tiptoeing. The reason why we have these offices to run for is to serve the people. If you can't speak with passion, you cannot speak with confidence, you cannot speak with a love for the human being, a love for the environment, a love for life, a love for the children in our society, and you're just going to talk about these little things. Well, Trump is a bad guy. So if you vote for me, you're not vote for the Republican. We're not going to keep them in power. So vote for me. That's not revolutionary talk. That's wimp talk. That's wimp. We need politicians that know what they're talking about economics. I'm sick and tired of people just tiptoeing around the issue. No, UBI is not going to work. Because you know why? Because no one's talking about that either. But I tell you, it's not going to work because you need to understand economics a bit more before you start getting into UBI. All these tech giants are talking about UBI. I don't know. I don't understand how you have a successful business, so all of a sudden you know about economics. No, you don't. You don't know political economy. You don't know how the public deficit and surplus works. You don't see the suffering out there because you're up there eating caviar and sipping on wine. You don't see the everyday person who's suffering. So how on this green earth are you going to understand how people are suffering? Look, UBI is like, you heard of the serfs and feudalism. The serfs basically said, you get paid a pittance when you're a serf. UBI, universal basic income, never changes. You're getting paid a pittance. The human beings want to do something. You can't, just giving people money. That's what you call a misdirected economy. That's what the scholars, because I study this all the time, and I'm a scholar, and I say that that's a misdirected economy. I'm willing to take a chance on that. That's not going to work. That's just going to peter out, and people are going to be receiving this money, and they're going to be serfs. You might as well call them neo-serfs. They're not going to be able to move up because all the money is going towards this UBI. There's not even a lot of scholarly journals on it. So look out. Look out for that UBI talk. I am honored to have filled tonight for Steve. And And next time we'll be on together, and we're going to be talking about the same thing. We're going to be talking about the state of our movement and how those of us who are paying attention, had the responsibility to move our country forward. And we have to understand when we put people in office that they can't change on us. So I challenge all the people who are running for office, whether you're running for Congress, whether you're running for Senate, whether you're running for a president, come on to this show, come on to RP and talk about it. Talk about economics, because that's the center of the policy. If you don't talk about economics, I'm gonna stay on you. I'm gonna stay on you. I promise you all. These people are gonna be tiptoeing. In 2018, I could just turn on my camera, come right back, and just start talking again about how you all are a bunch of wimps, and maybe you should be, doing something else instead of running for office. And if you all prove me wrong, I apologize, but for right now, I see a lot of people suffering out there. I see people out there every day trying to make ends meet, trying to get health care for the families, people who have cancer, people who have debilitating diseases, people who can't feed their children, people trying to make ends meet, and we're out here not talking about economics, and you're running for office? For what? Because Trump is a bad guy and the Republicans suck? You're running on that? You're not going to win jack shit. Unless you come on here and talk about economics and clear it up with the American people. So I love every last one of you, because you know what? We've been in this together, and we have to be very, very diligent in the things that we do, but we cannot be afraid to say what we mean to say. We cannot be afraid to fight. We're the guardians of our country. We're the guardians of, no one else is going to, this is our home. We have to guard this place, and we have to guard every single individual in this country. That's why we're in public service. This is why I'm in public service. If I cannot serve the public with what I do, you won't see me. I'll go do something else. I'm in politics not to be famous. If I want to be famous, I would have stayed a musician in Europe. I'm here because this is my country, this is my home, and as soon as I see those coming out saying they're running for office and they're not talking about economics, they're not talking about real solutions, and they're talking about how bad Trump is, I'm going to get right back at you. I'm going to come after you. And you know what? You're not going to win a campaign. The way you're going to win a campaign is that you're going to demonstrate to us that you're going to fight for the American people. You're going to fight for the downtrodden people of this country, and you're going to be the one in front leading the charge of this political revolution, because otherwise you're just a goddamn politician. So love you all. My name is John Lancelot, and I hope to see you all pretty soon again. And keep up the good fight, and don't be afraid to talk, and don't be afraid to be real.